5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or two ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
Good evening. This is
Avi Bernard.
Very happy I am to be back in the United States and back on the network, even for so short a visit as this one. A lot of people asked us to do it again, so it's gratifying to get the chance now. Personally, I've never met anybody who didn't like
KBLA Talk 1580.
But it seems I do have a reputation for the uncanny.
I'm an overpaid producer with pleasant reasons to rejoice, and I do. But surely my right to having more than enough is canceled if I don't use that more to help those who have less. We must each day earn what we own. A healthy man owes to the sick all that he can do for them. An educated man owes to the ignorant all that he can do for them. A free man owes to the world's slaves all that he can do for them. If we can't die in behalf of progress, we can live for it. If we waste that gift, we won't have anywhere to hide from the indignation of history.
This is the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time with Avi Bernard.
We did it, Joe.
The dawn is hours before. We knew it, somehow we do it.
The cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer.
Welcome into the Friday edition. Avi Bernard here with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. Let's get you caught up. The judge who presided over a civil business fraud trial against Donald Trump today ordered Trump, his sons, his business associates, and his company to pay over $350 million in damages and temporarily limited their ability to do business in New York. Judge Arthur Engoron ordered the former president and the Trump Organization to pay over $354 million in damages and bars Trump from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation in New York for a period of 3 years. He also continued the appointment of an independent monitor and ordered the installation of an independent director of compliance for the company. President Joe Biden expressed shock and outrage at the death of Alexei Navalny, blaming Vladimir Putin for the Russian opposition leader's passing in a Siberian prison today and saying the incident showed the importance of funding for Ukraine. Biden said, "Make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death." He said the U.S. did not know exactly what had happened to Navalny, but that there is no doubt that his death was the consequence of something that Putin and his thugs did. 2 juveniles have been charged in connection with a shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade that left 1 person dead and 22 others injured. The juveniles who were taken into custody after the parade were charged yesterday and are being held at a juvenile detention center on gun-related and resisting arrest charges. The shooting happened Wednesday afternoon in downtown Kansas City next to the Union Station where the parade had ended and the rally was held. Authorities said they believe a dispute among several people ended in gunfire and said there was no evidence of violent extremism or terrorism. Popular radio DJ Lisa Lopez Galvin was killed. President Joe Biden's campaign and abortion rights advocates ripped into former President Donald Trump on abortion today following a report that he has given private signals in favor of a national ban on abortions after 16 weeks of pregnancy that would include exceptions in cases of rape, incest, and when the woman's life is in danger. During his presidential campaign, Trump has steered clear of taking a public position on a prospective national ban, which would require congressional approval. But the New York Times reported today that he has indicated behind closed doors that he likes the idea of prohibiting abortion after 16 weeks in most cases. School officials in Miami-Dade County appear to be rethinking a controversial policy requiring students to get parental approval before hearing guest speakers on subjects like African American history and the Holocaust after the district received widespread backlash. At least one Miami-Dade school board member has been skeptical of how the district is carrying out the permission slip policy, fearing that it could ultimately cause students to miss out on critical education opportunities for something as simple as forgetting to ask for their parents' signature. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday said he didn't get complete satisfaction from last week's interview with Tucker Carlson because the right-wing U.S. pundit failed to take him to task. During the over 2-long-hour Carlson interview, Putin delivered a 20-minute-plus soliloquy about Russian history and mocked Carlson over his failed attempt to join the CIA. So much to talk about today with our guest, with our contributor, the marvelous Christopher Walton, the former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County. And we will get to all of those subjects. So much happening in the news today, right at when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for all state auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king.
Can't sleep with this cold.
Honey.
Honey?
Honey, you need NyQuil Severe Honey.
NyQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a dreamy honey taste.
Feeling better, honey? Honey? I'll take that as a yes.
Try NyQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu symptom relief. NyQuil Severe with honey flavor. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever. Honeylicious, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
And welcome in. It's the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time. Avi Bernard here with you every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific. And thank you for joining us, whether you are listening on KBLA 1580 AM here in Los Angeles, or the free KBLA app, or you're listening to and watching us on YouTube. You can watch us live on YouTube, and if you miss any part of this show, You can rewatch it on YouTube, or you can check out the podcast at KBLA1580.com. All right, let's bring in Christopher Walton, the former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County. Chris, so good to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm about as good as can be, trying to wrap my brain around everything that's happening, and that's why I'm glad you're here to discuss it today. The news that came down earlier this afternoon, just a few hours ago, we've been waiting for this for a while. The judge who presided over the civil business fraud trial against Donald Trump today ordered him and his sons and his company to pay over $350 million. This is just a week or so after he had to pay another $80-something million to E. Jean Carroll in her second defamation case. The money is piling up. What's your reaction to the ruling that came in today about Trump and his company having to pay over $350 million and being banned from doing business in New York for 3 years?
Couldn't happen to a better person.
That's right.
Couldn't happen to a better person. You've defrauded the people of New York. You defrauded the people of the United States. You said how much of a businessman you are, yet you can't even run a business in your home city, in your hometown, in your home state. And honestly, if you can't run a business, you probably shouldn't be able to run a whole country. But, that's for me to make sure everybody else remembers.
Yeah.
I think that it's a tragedy, again, a tragedy of errors that has kept being perpetually put upon the people of the United States. Like, at what point will it stop? Like, this man has no money. He already has had to put out, $97 million to E. Jean Carroll because he still couldn't shut up. You have no self-control. You're about to have no money. And now you think, if I can become president again, I can stop all this? No. The presidency is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Nobody is above the law.
Well, it shouldn't be a get-out-of-jail-free card, but that's essentially what he's using it for, isn't he? I mean, he's mainly running to stay out of prison, I mean, of course, and to exact some level of vengeance against his political enemies, but he's running because he knows that if he doesn't, then he's up Shites Creek without a paddle, and he doesn't have very many avenues for staying out of all this legal trouble. I mean, if he gets to be president again, he will most likely avoid any serious criminal liability, don't you think?
Yeah, and that's why we got to stop him.
Yeah,
that's exactly why we have to stop him. We can't let somebody who's literally trying to hide in the White House become the president of the United States. What are you running for? What have you done? What are you actually going to do for the American people besides what you've already done, which is remove their access to reproductive freedom, cause more problems than we've ever faced before? Why should we let this man return to the White House to do more damage?
Yeah, speaking of limiting people's access to reproductive freedom, I'm glad you brought that up because President Joe Biden's re-election campaign and abortion rights advocates are ripping into Donald Trump today because there is a report that came out today, and Donald Trump has, as lizard-brained as he is, his campaign has gotten one thing right so far, and that is not being explicit about his intentions on abortion and trying to already run a general election type of campaign on that. Usually when Republicans, or always, especially now, Republicans will have primary campaigns that are super far right, and then when it comes to the general election, they'll come back to the center because they know they have to appeal to more Americans. So Trump hasn't been as explicit in talking about anti-abortion, even though he did obviously appoint the justices who overturned Roe versus Wade. So, but now there's a report that comes out that says he has privately been saying he's in favor of a national abortion ban after 16 weeks of pregnancy. Your thoughts on this report today and whether it will have any impact on Donald Trump's polls? I mean, as we get closer to the election, more people will start paying attention, and more of this stuff will come to light. But his polling has been very strong in relation to Joe Biden, and much to my dismay, I'm sure, as well as yours. So, was this going to at least curve that, take away some of his momentum?
Well, his polling really hasn't been that strong, honestly, looking at it from the eyes I'm looking from. He keeps hitting 45, 46, 47, and President Biden is down to like 42, 43, 44.
Mm-hmm.
Trump keeps getting the exact same number he got in 16 and 20, 45, 46, 47. He can't get to 50. So all the fight is really on our side. We got to bring everybody home. And we can do that. And that's why we got a campaign out here. And that's what they're out here doing now. But the thing is with this whole situation, Donald Trump literally took away reproductive freedom for the women of America. And I know a lot of women in America, and they don't like things being taken away from them. I've been chased by a few pairs of curling irons in my younger days. Women are not interested in being told what they can and cannot do with their bodies. And it's not right. It's just simply not right. And they deserve the right to have control over their bodies. And we're gonna settle this to the ballot box. I'm looking forward to that. But one thing we can, for certainty, is make sure that we let everybody know. Donald Trump is the one who caused this. All of the issues that we are facing, whether it be affirmative action being overturned, Donald Trump put the justices on the court that overturned it. Whether it be reproductive freedom being taken away, Donald Trump put the justices on the court that they took it away. Do we want to give him the ability to put on possibly three again, new judges? Because 3 people are going to be over the age of 70 during the next presidential term. Do we want to give him that ability? Have we not learned?
3 justices, you mean? 3 Supreme Court justices?
3 Supreme Court justices will be over the age of 70 in the next presidential term.
You know, it's so fascinating. No, go ahead.
Including Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, but also Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because it's what happens in the next election, I think, will determine what those justices do. It's such a different era now where justices aren't just going to retire because they're ready to go. I feel like if Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, if they want to retire, then if Trump wins again, they'll feel good about retiring and they'll retire. Otherwise, if Joe Biden wins, I'm really interested in this. I'm really glad you brought that up because I didn't have this plan to talk about. But if Joe Biden wins again, what are the chances that Samuel Alito or Clarence Thomas actually retires? I think both of them would rather wait until they die and die in office, die on the court, than knowingly retire knowing that Joe Biden is going to replace them with a liberal justice.
They have that right. And I'm not going to set my calendar worried about what Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are going to do. But I am going to make sure I know what Sonia Sotomayor is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because now instead of being a 6-3 court, we're a 7-2.
Oof. I mean, 6-3 is already brutal.
Right.
But I feel like Sotomayor would be in the same boat, though. I think that's the era we're in now. I think she would probably not retire if Donald Trump were to win again. I think she would probably rather die in office too, die on the court too, than step down knowing that Trump is going to replace her and give the conservatives a 7-2 majority. And this is just the one mistake that Ruth Bader Ginsburg made. She just waited too long. She should have retired, before Trump got in office, and it would have been a whole different situation. I mean, I still remember that day when she died. It was, I think it was in September, right before the election, just a few months away. And I was actually on a plane to Maui, and I landed and I saw the alert on my phone. I was like, oh my God. Because just knowing the implications, knowing that even though they had said, oh, we're not gonna take up a Supreme Court nomination process in an election year like they did to deny Merrick Garland, I knew that they were going to do it if it was a Republican in the White House. And so just knowing that, oh man, fascinating stuff about the justices and that whole lifetime appointment they get. That's something that needs to be addressed. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. But speaking of Donald Trump and his buddies, and the people he aspires to be like, President Joe Biden today expressed shock and outrage at the death of Alexei Navalny, who has been for a long time Vladimir Putin's biggest threat to power in Russia. He's an opposition leader. He's like kind of like the people's hero. And if there had been legitimate elections in Russia, then he would have had a great chance to beat Vladimir Putin. Of course, there are not legitimate elections in Russia because Vladimir Putin is a dictator, and he would not allow such things because he has decided he's going to hold on to power for either his whole life or until he doesn't want it anymore. So today, President Joe Biden is expressing shock and outrage that Alexei Navalny has died, apparently in a Siberian prison. And this is someone who Vladimir Putin poisoned and tried to assassinate him many times and locked him up just for the crime of disagreeing with him. That's what dictators do. And this Vladimir Putin is someone who Donald Trump has openly praised and apparently wants to be like. And just a real sad situation with Navalny dying today, because but I do think that it could potentially maybe make Congress give them a kick in the ass about aid for Ukraine. But what's your reaction to Alexei Navalny passing away today?
Well, first and foremost, my condolences to his family. You hate to see someone become martyred, but this is literally a situation where somebody has been martyred. Mm-hmm. He fought and stood up against Vladimir Putin, and he didn't end up the same way, a Mandela or other people have ended, but he was a freedom fighter for his people. And I hate that for him and his family, and I condolences again to him and his family. But this is Vladimir Putin's fault. Every single bit of it is Putin's fault. He did this. And what this is only going to show is that there is a strand out there of just simple madness that is going on in the politics around the world. Whether it's Orban in Hungary, Putin for Russia, Trump for here, we have to stand up and demand as a people and make very clear what our values are, what systems of government we support and want to support and have. This man died in the Siberian gulag, basically, like this is the Soviet Union, because he dared to speak up against his government. We like to moan and complain what the government does and does not do, depending on how we voted, honestly, in this country. But they are the people we selected. We have the ability to remove them. We just did it 4 years ago. So, this is a clarion call for democracy. This is the death that should light us all on fire and get us moving. Because if it's happened in Russia in front of us, he has poisoned this man, he has abused him, he has ran him out of the country. And this man came back and said, no, my country is more important than my life, than my political party. I want my people free. And so the challenge to everyone here listening, my fellow Americans, what are we going to do? Are we willing to put our lives on the line to fight for our freedoms, for our ability to vote, our right to have our votes counted and all of our votes counted equally? Should we allow someone to stand above the law? Do we want a king? Do we want a dictator for a day or a dictator for life? We have the ability to make those decisions this year. Take them seriously. Think about it. Make sure people get out there and vote.
Do you think that with the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny today, that the winds in Congress might change a little bit towards giving aid to Ukraine? I mean, it's been held up in Congress by Republicans for months and months now, and it's something that had a chance when it was packaged with the border deal. Republicans even turned that down because they thought that they could use the border issue in the election this year. And then the Senate passed a standalone foreign aid package for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan. And so, what do you think about this tragedy happening today, and at least as it relates to what could happen with aid to Ukraine? Do you think the two could end up? Do you think that they could end up being related? Do you think the death of Navalny could push people, because that's what's happening. People are, people on the left are now kind of using this as a call to say, look, this is why we need to give aid to Ukraine. What do you think?
I hope so. Would I hold my breath on a Republican developing a conscience? No. I'm not expecting that. I would like to see them move forward potentially with this discharge petition, but we have to bring the fight, my fellow Americans. We have to show up and say, this is what I need. This is what I'm demanding. Not only has this situation happened with Lavalier, we just recently, the House chair of the Intelligence Committee just came out on national television. This is a major national security threat. Russia is trying to put nukes in space. Like, what can you do to force people to save themselves? Like, the Republican Party has to get off. It has to get up and do what it's got to do. Is it more important to save your nation, or is it more important to save your own political ass?
Yeah, and I think they've answered that question again and again, that they'd rather save their political ass than do what's best for their own constituents or the country at large. When we come forward, we are going to have our Friday segment, What in the White Privilege. As always, it's a good one today. And I'm going to tell you about why a Delta flight from Amsterdam to Detroit had to turn around an hour into the flight, and you will not be able to guess why. Why did this Delta flight from Amsterdam to Detroit get a surprising and disgusting announcement from the pilot an hour into their flight and have to turn around and go back to Amsterdam? You will never guess, I promise you, but I will tell you when we come forward after this news, traffic, and sports update right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Areva time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Obama is weighing in on former President Trump's recent controversial NATO remarks. In a post on X Wednesday, formerly known as Twitter, Obama added to a post from President Biden saying President Biden is absolutely right. The last thing we need right now is a world that is more chaotic and less secure, where dictators feel emboldened and our allies wonder if they can count on us. Let's keep moving forward. Paramount's Bob Marley biopic is already setting records. Bob Marley One Love brought in $14 million Wednesday, breaking the record for biggest midweek Valentine's Day opening. The film starring Kinsley Benadir is projected to earn $30 million in its first 6 days through the President's Day holiday. Meanwhile, Sony's Spielberg's film Madam Web took in just over $6 million in its first day in theaters Wednesday. The superhero movie is projected to rank in $20 million over its first 6 days. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Out in Arcadia in the 210 West before Baldwin Avenue, got a crash shake up the two middle lanes with traffic deadlock from Huntington Drive. On the 110 south before the 101 in downtown LA, that's a crash moving the right shoulder with traffic heavy from the 5 south. Out in Orange County, Buena Park 91 east after Valley View, a big red crash has been moving the right shoulder, but traffic still slow from 133rd Street. And then Anaheim, all lanes have cleared on the 91 east connected to the 57 from earlier debris in the lanes to the transition to the 57 south.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the highlights of NBA All-Star Weekend is the NBA HBCU Classic on Saturday. Virginia Union will face Winston-Salem State in a showcase for HBCU players during a high-profile weekend. The game tips off Saturday morning at 11. You can watch the game live on TNT, ESPN2, and NBA TV. Today's Black History Month sports moment: on October 24th, 1992, Cito Gaston became the first African-American manager in Major League Baseball history to lead his team to a World Series championship. Gaston led the Toronto Blue Jays over the Atlanta Braves, winning the series 4-2. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA, join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds, 60 minutes of talk with some flavor. You can join the conversation at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte with the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial. In a public opinion survey commissioned by KBLA Talk 1580 and conducted by Viteris, the black voters surveyed were highly enthusiastic about the March 2024 primary. The race for Los Angeles District Attorney is being hotly contested. Incumbent DA George Gascon's efforts to implement progressive criminal justice reforms have generated pushback from within his own office, the broader law enforcement community, and some in the general public. He was the subject of at least 2 failed attempts to qualify recalls. The concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or 2 ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
City of Los Angeles landlords that own rent-controlled properties, you are now able to increase rents by 4% for your rent-controlled properties. An extra 1% per utility up to 6% can be added only if you pay the entire gas and electric bill. And don't forget to give your tenant an advance 30-day written notice for rent increases of less than 10%. It is state law. Learn more about the rent increase at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Gabby.
Hey, Gabby. It's Jennifer Coolidge. Hi. I'm so glad I reached you at 2 a.m.
Oh, of course. Anyone with a Discover card can call and talk to a real person 24/7. Now, how can I help?
Yeah, I used my Discover card to buy these yellow pleather pajamas, and I'm just not sure I'm pulling them off.
24/7 U.S.-based customer service. It pays to Discover. Limitations apply. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
There's no time like the present. Let's get back to more of Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Back on the Friday edition of Areva Martin in real time, Avi Bernard here with you, and I'm joined by Christopher Walton, the former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County. All right, Chris, so much to talk about today. As I was saying earlier, it's just it's hard to just try to keep up with all of it. And so that's what we're here to do. And I'm glad I have you here to help me with it, because 2 juveniles have been charged in connection with the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade that left 1 person dead and 22 others injured. The 2 juveniles were taken into custody after the parade. They were charged yesterday and are being held at a juvenile detention center on gun-related and resisting arrest charges. So in this shooting, 1 person died and I believe 22 were injured. The injured range in ages from 8 to 47. And the person who died was a radio DJ in Kansas City. And just really, we don't know all the details yet on what kind of gun was used or guns were used. And it appears that it stemmed from a dispute and not because someone was trying to cause terrorism or because they were extremists. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, every time this happens, renew the debate on why guns are so accessible. And Missouri is one of the states with the most lax gun laws. And so I just have to bring up the conversation again, even though, it's not clear at this point if the gunmen were using illegal guns or AR-15s. Those on the right are always saying, well, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. There were 800 good guys with guns at that parade, 800 police officers who were there to secure that parade. good guys with guns can't prevent things from happening. They can respond. They can do something after the fact. It doesn't matter how many good guys with guns there are. If there are people with bad intentions or even people with bad tempers, they can cause mass destruction and take countless lives and change countless lives because Republicans are too coward and too money and power hungry to do anything about it. So another thing they say is we shouldn't talk about that right now. We shouldn't talk about the debate right now. We should just mourn the loss. And we mourn losses every day because these mass shootings happen every day. Some of them are more profile than others. And when a team wins a Super Bowl and there's a mass shooting at their Super Bowl parade, it's going to get some attention. But these happen every single day in this country. And this is not something that happens in other advanced countries because they don't have this problem, because they don't allow everyone to just get any kind of gun they want anytime. So I wanted to pass the mic to you, Chris, to say whatever you want to say about either the Kansas City parade shooting or the gun debate in general.
I'm tired of talking about guns as much as I'm tired of talking about Donald Trump. It is a sad state of affairs that we live in a society, and our political system has failed us where we can't fix this problem. And we truly can't fix it. Even though we can.
We could. It's just that they won't.
They won't fix it. And it's not a they. It's the Republican Party.
Right.
The Republican National Committee. Mitch McConnell, John Cornyn, John Thune, John Barrasso, all 49 Republicans in the United States Senate, Speaker Johnson, all the majority of the House of Representatives will not pass legislation to ban assault weapons, to put in red flag laws, to curb any of this stuff, even on the state level. At the state level, we have to vote in every single election. Yes, every single election is the most important election of your life because it will determine your next 2 years. Whether it is on a federal level, whether it's on a state level, whether it's on a mayoral, local level, you need to vote in every single election to determine what the next 2 years of your life will look like before you get the next chance to do it again. And until we actually put people in place who will be able to give us the laws that we want and not just yell at the people who we put in place and then they can't pass the laws because they don't have the votes to do it, then we need to keep pushing. This goes right back to Navalny. What are we going to do to push for our freedoms? What are we willing to risk for our freedoms and the values that we hold dear to us? There's no way we should be having this gun debate no more. But again, after those kids got killed at Sandy Hook, after that church got shot up in South Carolina, after a grocery store in New York, a Sikh mosque in Wisconsin, Columbine High School in Colorado,
a middle school in Uvalde, Texas. I mean, you can name so many.
At what point will it be enough? And sadly, the Republicans in power will not get out of the way and let us fix it. And so we need to stop voting for Republicans and putting them in places of power so that we can fix the problem. This is not a both sides issue here. There's clearly one side that wants to get rid of the guns and the problems that we're having with those guns, and one that just wants to just start handing out guns at every event, taking photos with family photos with guns and machine guns. It's very clear here. It's a very clear line. But we, the people, have to make a decision with how we want to live.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's just really infuriating that we have to keep dealing with it. I know you said you're tired of talking about it. I am too. But what's even worse is that we have to keep dealing with it, and that we know as Americans that everywhere we go, we're at risk because of this unnecessary burden that Republicans put on us. And there's nowhere that's safe. You just mentioned so many different kinds of establishments, a supermarket, a church, a school, a movie theater, no matter where you're at. I mean,
and to really debunk that argument of a good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun. You know who had plenty of guns around him? President Reagan when he got shot. President Kennedy when he got shot. The Pope when he got shot. So, a good guy, that good guy versus a bad guy, this isn't a comic book. This is real life. And real people are getting killed off dumb arguments. They may be catchy. It may be able to get some of the simple-minded ones, but it's killing real people.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's something that I just want to keep on talking about. Obviously, we don't have a solution here today, but it's not as complicated as Republicans make it. Their position is they're not going to do anything. That anyone should be able to get any kind of gun anytime, and that's not. There have to be some restrictions, just like there are restrictions on people who can operate a motor vehicle. Motor vehicles are tools that can get you from A to B, but they also can be dangerous weapons. Guns are just dangerous weapons, and yet they don't want any restrictions on them. So it's just it's something that we got to continue to talk about. Speaking of talking, that's quite a segue here. Speaking of talking, Vladimir Putin is kind of openly mocking Tucker Carlson for the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Vladimir Putin, and this is just fascinating to me because the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, like handpicked Tucker Carlson to do an interview with him in Russia. Tucker Carlson goes over there, and of course Tucker Carlson recently fired from Fox News. Goes over there and does this interview and basically just gets run over, doesn't ask any substantive questions, lets Putin just run on and on with his inaccurate history recollections and lessons, and now Vladimir Putin says that he was dissatisfied with the interview. He was not completely satisfied because he thought he was going to get some tough questions from Tucker Carlson, but he didn't. Now, this is actually hilarious because we all know that Vladimir Putin did not want any tough questions. If he wanted tough questions, he would have got a different journalist, or he would have got a journalist. Tucker Carlson is not a journalist. And he would have got someone who he knows would have asked him tough questions. And if he wanted tough questions, he wouldn't have state-sanctioned media in which the TV stations have to say what he wants. So we know that he didn't actually want tough questions. Let's just get that part out of the way. But it's still hilarious that he took the time to diss Tucker Carlson. Even during the interview, he mocked Tucker Carlson over his failed attempt to join the CIA. And he basically called Tucker Carlson weak. He really like kind of smacked him upside the head here. And as someone in Tucker Carlson who's been so openly advocating for Russia for who knows what reason, probably other than that Donald Trump likes Vladimir Putin, and now to go over there, do this fake interview, and then have Putin still diss you. I mean, I find it hilarious. How about you?
I do as well. We gotta love a useful idiot, because that's exactly what Tucker Carlson is. This is a mind-blowingly stupid man. Like, you got to get creative to get this done. And he's in his face. We know you applied to be part of the CIA. Thank God you didn't get in. Well, not really, because meh. But like, he just told you weren't worth anything in your face. He just literally said, you could have been in the CIA. We know you wanted to, but you didn't get in because basically you weren't smart enough. But you would have been a threat to us, so we wish you had got in. Like, what is this, dude? Like, it boggles the mind. The conservative movement in the Western world is boggling my mind. Like, I just heard recently about a family that moved to Canada because Canada is not the same Canada it used to be, because so many people are supporting the LGBT and like I don't know about anybody else, but I've never been an LGBT. I don't know exactly what that is. But they're supporting the LGBT, so we're gonna move to Canada. We're gonna move to Russia where you can be real people again. Like, all right, go ahead, have fun. Let's see how that works out. Because if it doesn't work out in your favor, you may develop falling from window syndrome, like a lot of Russians who get over there and realize, oh, this is not what I thought it was, because people are being killed for having values that are against what the state says. the state makes the decision. Like, I feel like we need to do a crash history course for the entire world at this point so that they can see what a dictatorship looks like, what a democracy looks like, what values we have versus what they have. It seems to be a lot simpler before the Cold War ended. People really understood Russia is not the friendly bear in the woods. Russia ain't boo-boo. Russia is a grizzly. And this far-right ideology where we're going to go and, we can be real men over in Russia, it's toxic. It's
Go ahead.
Toxic,
Go ahead.
Foremost.
Go right ahead and be a real man in Russia.
This road. Yeah, go ahead. Try it. Vladimir Putin has literally built a propaganda arm about him riding on a horse with no shirt on. This is who Donald Trump looks up to. Mind you, I hope Donald Trump never takes into his propaganda machine to ride around on a horse with no shirt on.
Oh,
I
hope he
don't
does.
see that.
I hope he does. I really hope he does. That would be so awesome. Because
you've never seen a melted snow cone, Ivy?
What's that?
You've never seen a melted snow cone?
Well, I would love it because his fans love to like superimpose his head on like Rocky Balboa's body or something like, or just people like that, and just make him seem like the superhero. And I would love to get his shirtless body on camera just for eternity to use. I would love that, and as much as cringe as it would be, and as unpleasant as it would be to look at, that would be awesome. And Donald Trump would never let that happen because he knows that his image would never be the same. Even though people know he probably hasn't seen his private part in a long time.
Well, you know what? It makes me think. Go back to when he was in Georgia and he said. He completely lied on some legal document and said he was 215.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's the same weight as Lamar Jackson.
Get the chair for that one.
Yeah. He's the same weight as Lamar Jackson. Basically, is what he's saying. When we come forward, though, we are going to get into what in the white privilege, and Chris, I know you said you don't know what it's like to be a LGBT. Exactly, and just like I don't know what it's like to be. I don't know what a black is. What's a black? What's a LGBT? It's called a person, but they don't see us that way. Whether you're a member of the LGBTQ community or a black person, people in those circles don't look at us like we have the same level of rights and feelings as they do. When we come forward, we'll get into what in the white privilege, and I told you I'm going to tell you why the plane from Amsterdam to Detroit had to turn back, and you will never guess why when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's the real deal in real time. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
What's up, LA? This is John McKinney, your next district attorney. Voting is underway, and public safety is the top issue on the ballot. As a deputy district attorney for over 25 years, I know Los Angeles, and I know how to keep this community safe. And as an African American who lives and works in this community, I know the unique challenges we face. My promise to you is to ensure accountability, protect victims' rights, and give the underserved a voice. I'm John McKinney, and I ask for your vote for LA County District Attorney.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because no two people sleep the same. Only the Sleep Number smart bed lets you each choose your individual firmness and comfort, your Sleep Number setting. The Climate 360 smart bed is so smart it actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. JD Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The way we spend our time defines who we are. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Back on the Friday edition of Areva Martin in Real Time, Avi Bernard here with you, joined by Christopher Walton, the former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County. It is time for our weekly What in the White entitlement segment. Andy, who's at the door?
It's white.
So, this man boarded a hot air balloon. Okay, hot air balloons. Are not something I would ever interested in getting on. It's just I'm not interested in doing anything that goes up like that high. I just especially when you're out in the open air like that, you could fall off. You're not wearing a seatbelt or anything. Anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day. But this guy got onto a hot air balloon, and he was hiding a parachute. So he tried to jump off. He tried to board this hot air balloon with a parachute, unbeknownst to the hot air balloon pilot. And there are other people on this hot air balloon that they have to pay to get on this hot air balloon and then go for a ride. And it's all, it's people who don't know each other. So let's take a listen to the clip of when this dude took off his jacket to reveal his parachute. And I believe this is in Nepal. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's in Nepal. And this white dude just tried to jump off the doggone hot air balloon without letting everybody know. Let's take a listen, Eddie.
You're not high enough.
I am high.
Bro, no, you're not.
Bro,
you're not.
I've got thousands.
Dude, don't. I don't give a shit, man. You have to tell this before we need to ask for permission.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to do this. We're actually filing a permit, and you're us up. I'm telling you, man. We are actually filing a permit. If we do this illegally, man,
we're. Have it on video. You just tried to stop me.
What?
You have it on video. You just tried to stop me.
I don't care. I can't stop you physically. I'm going down right now.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to call the police.
Can you please cooperate, please?
Suman, do you copy?
Okay, so the audio goes on, and the white dude basically continues to go, "Come on, bro. Like, come on, man. Just let me do it." First of all, as the dude said, it's illegal. He can't do it. He'll lose his job. Secondly, everyone's life is at risk if you jump off that hot air balloon because it's very important the amount of weight that's carried, and they raise at a certain rate. They elevate, they ascend at a specific rate relative to the weight that they're carrying. And if someone jumps off when they're ascending, and this is explained later in the video by the pilot that you hear cursing at the guy in that video, he says basically if he jumped off, we probably all would have died because we would have lost control of the vessel. And this dude didn't care about that. He didn't know about that. He just was gonna jump. He just was gonna get on this hot air balloon. And then the white privilegist part of this is that he had one of his buddies on there with him, and this is all on film. You can see the whole thing. Afterwards, they're saying, "Oh, I guess mission failed, bro." And then he goes to the other, or he says, "I should have gone to the other side," where because the pilot was actually physically holding on to his shoulder straps, like his parachute, and not letting him jump. And so the guy was saying I should have went to the other side of the hot air balloon, not where I wasn't next to the pilot, so I could have just jumped anyway. No remorse. And then they even went and asked for their money back because the pilot landed the thing immediately because he felt everybody was in danger. They had the audacity to go ask for their money back. And this random white dude who tried to skydive out of a hot air balloon in Nepal is the subject of today's What in the White Privilege.
It's white.
And before we go, I told you I would tell you why this plane had to turn around from Amsterdam to Detroit, this Delta Airlines flight. So one of the passengers was sitting there minding his business, and he noticed that a woman was kind of like doing something, but he couldn't tell what she was doing. Turns out she was trying to brush a maggot off of the seat. And then he saw a couple more maggots fall from the overhead compartment above onto the woman. And it turns out that a passenger brought fish with him onto the flight, into his bag, into his carry-on luggage that he placed into an overhead bin. And that fish was rotten and had maggots in it. And when they opened that bin to discover where the maggots were coming from, they found his bag, and everyone in the area just they started holding their nose because they started smelling it. And they took it to the back, and they had to fly all the way back. They had taken off from Amsterdam an hour ago, and they had to fly all the way back to Amsterdam because one dude decided to bring some fish on a plane, not just like a plate of fish, like an actual fish, with him onto a plane, and that had maggots in it, and messed up everybody's day. Chris, I'm gonna give you any 30 seconds to say anything you want to say about this because we're about out of time.
That sounds like another example of white privilege.
Exactly. I was going to make that the example, but I couldn't confirm 100% that he was white, although I have a pretty good idea. I mean, it was in Amsterdam after all. But yeah, man, it was that is quite a doozy right there. Just a couple of aviation stories of white privilege right there back to back. Christopher Walton, former chair of the Democratic Party of Milwaukee County, thank you so much for joining us again. And where can we find you online?
Follow me on Twitter, Chris Walton, MKE.
All right, my brother. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you.
You too. Take care.
When we come forward, we're going to be talking about Black CEOs writing a letter to Fortune 500 CEOs telling them why DEI is still important after this news, traffic, and sports update right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former President Trump is being ordered to pay more than $350 million in a civil fraud case in New York. He is also being banned from doing business in New York for 3 years. The NBA All-Star Weekend is getting underway in Indianapolis, Indiana. The events kick off tonight with the Rising Stars Challenge and Celebrity Game. The festivities continue on Saturday with a three-point contest, slam dunk contest, skills challenge, and NBA HBCU Classic game. This year will also feature a three-point contest between Steph Curry and WNBA star Sabrina Ionescu. The Met Gala co-chairs are being announced. They include